So here's my embedded table, AM-FIN02, and this is the formula. If we look in the menu bar, you can see that it references cell D13, which is within the table. Okay, you can obviously use your anchors. So obviously, if you move stuff, it still references it because you tend to insert columns and rows in your spreadsheets. So you do that, you see it's busy, and it updates. And as I mentioned, you can use the refresh functions to refresh anything in any cell that contains a SAP will update based upon that. Okay, so that's all you have to remember for that. Now, this formula can be embedded within the SAP get table status. So the SAP get table status takes two parameters, the table name and the display type. So let's look at that. If we go in, you see the table that I want to reference. I've referenced cell C9, which is this table over here, table 1, which I recalculated. I could also type it in as well. Okay, so you can hard code it if you wish. And the display gives you the different types of display options. And please note, on the bottom of all the formulas, there's a link to the online help. So because I can't remember everything, so here the display. You would 0 just for the table name and the status. It's the default. If you don't enter anything, that's what you get. 1 just for the status, 2 for the status and the message, 3 for the table name, status, message, and 4 for everything. So if you come back and we change this to 4, we'll see that it spills over to the right. Okay, so table 1, that's the name of the table. That's the status ID table refreshed, and there's the text. Just make it format it nicely. You've got that. And likewise, even with the display status, in this formula, I've actually embedded another SAP get data table name within that one. So even if the table name changes, it's updated there. And the display I've linked to a cell, just to show you it's possible. We can cycle through the options so you can see 3, 4, and if I do 5, it'll error. I'll just go back to the default. You can see it, right? Okay. So that gives you the status of the table. So this one is refreshed.
So my question is, when you say table refreshed, that's why it's refreshed.
Refreshed as of now. As of.
So if I run this 2 hours,
it's still refreshed until you've done something. You'll see why this is important when we come to get the SAP get data.
And the other question is, you achieve all of this with Excel formulas to X lookup, VLOOKUP, and all of that?
Yes, you can link, as I say, you can embed ifs and VLOOKUPs within these, and I'm going to show you an example of that. So this refresh icon here is obviously, this is relating to this table here. Sometimes you see, especially when you open up a workbook for the first time, it's in orange, which means it needs to be refreshed. When you see that, this will be different, and you'll see this in some of the other lessons. But I just wanted to show you the basics. This is available to you to show you what's going on.
Yeah, is it possible to show the time and date of refresh?
Not at this moment in time, unless you kind of link this to a now formula, and then you can get the date and the time. But as we know, the AM-FIN02 is a real-time data set within a few seconds. So when you make a posting in S4, a few seconds later, and you hit refresh, that data will automatically be there, with a caveat, unless SAP DataSphere has gone down, which we've seen in the past. But yeah, it's real time. Okay. You know, I'm sure SAP will come up with something to show you the status of the data in SAP BW, you could always get when data was last loaded. Now in the back end, we can see that. So I know that information is available, but SAP don't provide a way of outputting it in Excel. Again, we can ask them to update that. But yeah, not all data sets are real time. The majority of the data sets here at Savannah are. Okay, lesson 2, very simple formula. SAP get dimensions, reference the table. We always reference the table, the data source in anything. It's got a few, it's got a few more options. So here's actually the formula. It's an array formula, it returns an array. This up. So table 1, I've just typed it in, but I could use a reference to the formula. How I want it to display. In this case, I want to have the ID and the description. And again, if you want to know all of this, just click there. It's online. Again, see ID, description, ID and description, which is what I've specified. The orientation is whether you want it vertical or horizontal. I've gone down, but you could also have it across many columns. And the sort order, ascending, descending, or the default as it comes out of the queue. So I've just done sorted it ascending. Okay. Now this is important because it lists down. So in this column we have the technical name of the dimension, and in this column we have the description, okay, which many of you will be familiar with. Now if we go down to the bottom, we now have what, 450 dimensions available. And when by dimensions, that's including the master data. So don't say we don't give you anything to analyze. You've pretty much got anything. But really, there's probably only half a dozen dimensions that you use, which obviously the GL account hierarchies.
What's the difference between row 30 and 31? They seem to have the same.
13?
30 and 31.
30 and 31. This one and this one.
Yeah.
Okay. So this one is generated. So you have an asset number as a piece of transaction data. Yeah. But you also have an asset number as an attribute of an object, master data. So you must understand the difference between transaction data and master data. Transaction data is whatever it is you post. Okay. Now you'll have an asset maybe on a WBS element. Okay, that is master data, and it could change over time if somebody updates the master data, but the transaction will always remain the same because you can't change a file that's posting. You can only reverse it using another document. Okay, so that is the difference. And I agree, the description is a little bit off. So we could go back into DataSphere and after it write main asset number in brackets attribute of whatever dimension that is. So these are all points for improvement. Okay. So you can use the technical name or the business name, but I think if you use this name, it wouldn't know which. You'd probably get an error. So we would use this. So that's how to get a listing of all the dimensions. And these ones that have got this funny looking thing, that means it definitely is master data. It's AS is an association, and that means it is master data. Okay. So there's a lot there. So you can list down your favorites, but they will generally be the same. The next one is to get the description of the metrics. And the only way to do that is to embed a table. I've listed down all the metrics here. And rather than just display the description, which is default, I've displayed the ID and the description, and you can just do the ID. So, and then you'll get the technical name. Now, the technical name is important when we come to use the SAP.GETDATA formula. It prefers, I actually can't get it to work using the descriptive text. I only ever use the key, the technical key of the metric. So this one has all your new metrics in as well. Go down You can see that they're the ones I created for you the other day. Although you're right about September, it exists, but I got the technical name wrong. Okay, so you can do that on any model. Lesson 4, get dimension filter. So I'll slow it down a bit here because there's a bit to take in. You can write this in a couple of ways. The table, or reference the table from a cell. And then if we look, so I've got the same one in twice here, you see. It's exactly the same, but it's written differently. One is table 2, and the dimension is, I've hard-coded it because it's in quotes. AA1 is the name of the dimension. That's from the GL. And then the member display, how you want it to output when the user sees it, key and text, text and key ID. Yeah, so you can see that. And then the orientation, whether you want it to go across or down. I always choose 1 because you don't know how many values you're going to choose. And what you'll see is if you overlap anything, you won't get this crop or anything. It will just say spill. And you see, yeah, it'll say spill. So if you bump into something, it'll say I can't output it. It will say spill. So if you see that, you know there's more and that you need to put some more columns or rows in. Okay. Yes. Yes. So for example, let me just write something here. Okay, let's see if we can get it to break. So in the formula, the member display is set for 2. Again, you can always click help for the thing because I can't be bothered. So this one is just the ID. Now, if I want, 5 and 6, the ID and description in 2 separate cells. So let's make that, instead of 2, let's make that 5. Let's see if that allows it. See, you see, it's turned into spill because I put something here. And if I get rid of something here, and I just go back, I put it in. Oh, it still says spill. Where am I going? Maybe I'm going. Display. Put it down. Now, once it's there, you can click on the pencil like this. Don't double click. Double click doesn't work. But the single click, it will pop up and you'll get the filter box. It's the same as doing it over in the filter area over here. But this is easier to access. You don't have to have this pane open. And if you want to search on the ID, display options, ID and description, by default, SAP always puts it on description. I wish they would default it to ID and description if you're listening SAP. And then you can search in the search box here, and it will then bring back everything that contains AP. So if you want that, you could put that in. And because I put it in twice, see, it's updated twice. Okay, you notice this one is the other way around because I've said instead of key and text, text and key. Yeah, so you can see the way it comes out. Now this formula is exactly the same. However, in this one, I've embedded the dimension name and I've put it the other way around. So this one I use the technical name, which is AA1, and in this one I use the descriptive name, which is AA1 space open bracket balance sheet. So that's to show you can use either the technical name or the description. It doesn't matter. You just need to know one or other. Most times the user will use the description. This is the description. Okay, but it's case sensitive, the description. If it's got a dot in it, you must put the dot in. If it's got a star in it, you must do it exactly. It's an exact science, okay? You can also reference, which is very nice, the value within the spreadsheet, either the technical name or the description. So this is company code, but you'll see within the formula, I'm referencing I10, which in this case is the technical name, but I can just as well reference the descriptive name as well, and same settings, and the filter will still work. So if you want to have a list, you could just type it in, and then the filter would update. Okay, so think about how you can maybe use that in your applications. And again, this works the same way. Now, there is a bug that I have found. So, and this is why I've highlighted this one in red, so you don't make the same mistake as me, because I'm just going mad. In this one, I thought, I'd be really clever and embed that SAP get table name, okay, which I'm referencing my table in C1. Oops, cancel that. However, and it works, it comes up, so we know it works. However, when I click the red pencil, nothing happens. Look, click this one. Oh, look, something happens. But if I click this one that I've made red, it doesn't happen. So it's a bug. So I'm telling you now, so you don't come to me next week saying, no, it doesn't work. Okay? Doesn't work, yeah? Told you. Hear me, yeah? Don't use the SAP get table name in there. I'm sure it's an oversight from SAP. Why wouldn't it work? But yeah, it doesn't, okay? Okay, and the same with the measures. You can use the measures as a dimension and click on here. This is the measure I'm just using, exception to date. But you should, again, I've got the table name in there, so it's not going to work. So what is the table name? Table 2. So if I come in here and I actually say table 2, okay, and then click on it, it now works. Okay, just to prove the point in case. So you can also select metrics, and you multiple select, and they will appear in your tables. Okay, and again, you can turn the ID and description on. Get the ID and the description. Okay, so that is the dimension filter. So this one, you see, I've selected company code 1000. I'm just going to remove the filter on the AA1 balance sheet, just in case that one is not used in another company code, because I just want to show you something. So I'm just going to reset that to everything. You'll see this will update, hopefully back to 0, because it's a balance sheet. Okay, back to 0. It's good. So the override, any questions on? You should use that in all your reporting. Yeah. No, it just doesn't work. It doesn't error. It's just that when I click the pencil, it doesn't pop the box up. It's a bug. So I was sitting there clicking, going, my Excel's hung. It's just not working. Okay. So you see the table refreshing here. Obviously, when you do this, you will see this table refresh and change. So you get table refresh, busy, table refresh. Now this status is important to note now when I come on to the override dimension filter. Okay, so you can string multiple tables together, like table 1, table 2, table 3 for your data source. But you can also reference the table from a spreadsheet. So this is table 2. Oops. This is busy, right? You notice when I took this out, look what happened to the table status. Table with pending filters, and this has gone orange. Yeah, because I took it out. So this is referencing a table, table 2. I've referenced the cell. You can reference a string of tables, an array. So table 1, table 6, table 8. I don't know what tables you've got in, but if you've got 10 tables, then you can then use this to automatically filter across 10 tables. It does only take one dimension. So, and also you need to make sure that either the technical name or the descriptive name is the same across tables. Now, if you're using the same data set, of course it is, but if you're using, say, a supply chain data set, finance data set, and another data set, then yeah, the names might differ. So we need to do some alignment in the back end. The members will take an array also. So here I've referenced these 3 company codes. Okay. The array shouldn't have any blank values. I couldn't get it to work with blank values, but you'll learn this. So it should have, so you can have multiple, just one. And then these are just how things are to display. But when you do that, you'll notice the table doesn't automatically change. It still says 1000, yeah? But here I've said 1021, 1011, and 1018. That's because the status is pending filters. But if I push this, or come up here and push this, then it will work. So if let's just refresh. So that's a point to note with the overwrite dimension filters, that it doesn't automatically refresh the table. Okay, so now it's loading and you see it's automatically overwritten the filter that I applied up here, and it's actually populated it with the filters I've applied in this formula. So that's why it's quite powerful. It can it's saying to overwrite, and then I can come in here and maybe I didn't mean 1019, I meant 1018 or 1000, and again you'll see table with pending filters, and then I hit refresh and then it will go through and update the table. Now you can do this on multiple dimensions by having different overwrites, maybe one on period, one on company code, on GL account if you've got a set of lists. So it's a way of updating multiple tables in one shot. Okay, and even when I refresh, it still says table with pending filters. Even if I do it up here, okay, it doesn't change. I click on this table and I say, okay, let's refresh the table. This status message doesn't go away. I don't know why. It just says it's got pending filters, okay, which is rather strange. Okay, but it has refreshed. So use it with caution. I haven't seen anyone use it yet, but it is a way if you've got multiple data sets or data sources on how to update. Okay. Let's move on to the SAP.GETDATA, shall we? That's what we came here for. Right, I'll make this a little bit bigger. Okay. So it works with name pair values. This is the formula. The first one is always the data source ID. You can also use a table, but the first one is the data source. Now, in order to insert a data source into a sheet, you have to just click on a blank cell, click this add function button at the top here, and then you can say add data source for formulas. Okay, you do this once, it's fine. You go and find the model that you want. Okay, so we're going to go and find the production one. We'll take this one, and you put it in, and what it will give you. Okay, it prompts me for variables. What it will give me is DS2 here. I've already got DS1, which is this, which also refers, but that's how to get the data source. And this is the alias which you need to know. And you can see that from the formula SAP.GETDATA DS2, which basically will return you everything with a default metric. Not very interesting. You can delete that one afterwards. Delete that. And if you want to remove the data source of formula, that was data source 2, you can do all of them. Let's leave one there.
What's the default one?
It goes in order, sequential order. So you can. So data source 1 might be the financial model. Data source 2 might be supply chain model. Data source 3 might be purchase order model. And then you can use. I'll reference a bit from there, a bit from there, a bit from there. Good for reconciliation. Yeah. Or maybe the corporate model, the group reporting model. You want to take some data from there and match it against what you've got in your GL. Oh, I'm just you think about the art of the possible, what you want to do, and there's a way of doing it. So the way it works is, so I've got, these are all SAP.GETDATA, and I'm going to show you now. So I've put in data source 1 in here, which is this one. Data source 2 is group reporting or whatever the model is that you're referencing. So one date, you only need to put it in once, and then you can just reference any combination from it. And then it goes in name pair values. And by that, I mean you specify the dimension name, either the technical name or the descriptive name, which I showed you from the SAP Get Dimensions. Okay, so this one is company code. And then you specify the value. Okay, now you can hard code the value, 1000, 2000, whatever the value is, but I linked it to the spreadsheet because we love Excel. So let's link it to the spreadsheet. Makes when you change something, unless you're never going to change the formula. It's nice to make it dynamic. So this one I've got company code, fiscal year period. It has to be in the internal format. You can't type September 2023, for example. Has to be the key, which is 2023-001. Okay, not the description of the company. The measures is the metric one, and I'm taking our technical name, which I showed you in the other lesson. So this one is the inception to date in group currency. Okay, and take the dimension GL account, and I want this the value to return, and everything else is blank, and there's unlimited. Okay, name pair values. However, you can't specify two company codes. I wish you could like string two company codes together in an array or something. Cannot, doesn't work like the dimension is single value. And even if I say company code value and then company code in another and value, just won't work. Single value only, name pair, one off, which is a bit rubbish when you're trying to aggregate stuff. But as I mentioned, for things like GL account groupings, we have all those dimensions already, so you could reference them, which is what I've got below. So this one now looks up from this spreadsheet, and I've used the anchor, the dollar sign to anchor the cells. So I just write the one cell like this, and I can copy right, copy down, because you know me, I'm very lazy. Yeah. So like Will said, there's a little bit of a delayed reaction where it recalculates everything, and obviously the more cells you have, the more delayed reaction is going to be. But what I found is once it's calculated, the next time you do it, it seems to be cached better, and it will refresh much quicker. So it's put it in. You can then apply your Excel formats accordingly. If you want to refresh all the functions, you can do this, and it will go in, say busy, whilst it will calculate, and you can see processing in the bottom right. So yeah, it's running, it's done.
Sorry, you saying kind of a brain? Yeah.
No, it's a bit rubbish, isn't it? Yeah, I think I might make a suggestion to SAP. Why can't I have a reference? Because it would be brilliant just to say I want a range of these GLs, but it doesn't. It seems to only take a single one. Now I played around a little bit, and I tried a semicolon, a comma, a bracket, square. I couldn't get it to work. The help doesn't mention this. It just says single. So yeah, if you read the guide, it kind of points out that it's not possible. But again, if you look in this table below, so I've taken balance sheet 3 BS3 from the GL, which is this level of the GL hierarchy. Because it's not a hierarchy, we flattened it out. I can reference this and then get a list of GLs. So if you've got the grouping of the GLs already and that's in the system, then the group cannot. Yeah, if you've got, yes, exactly. You just, instead of putting the GL in, I've just referenced the balance sheet here and all the same stuff. And then I've got my total assets, total equity, total liabilities, which nets off to 0.
Back to Sophia's question. How do you pause the refresh? Do it when you're ready, instead of every time you change the variables and it's endless processing?
Okay, so, oh, look, this is new. This wasn't here. Restore corrupted workbook objects. Lovely. Okay, you've got this refresh manually, which is the default. Refresh automatically and then refresh manually, which is the default. But so now you want me to do something. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, so just change the parameters and let's see if it's not going to.
What, the prompts or?
Yeah, change the prompts.
Well, it'll be for the entire workbook, and I have several tables in here. So as soon as I change any of these variables, yeah, it's going to refresh because I've forced to change.
Immediately you open that box, it keeps, that's what we want to stop and delete only when we're ready. Is that
what this is now asking you to change the period, for example.
yes?
If I change the period, it's going to refresh. If I
But you change it to refresh manually. So
that's when you're doing, yeah, but it was the default is refresh manually. So I really, what is the question you're saying?
okay, so every time you change the parameters, this automatically just keeps refreshing.
Oh, this one, yes, absolutely. So if I, for example, took this and then paste this over here, I force a refresh, it knows it's just updated. No, Control Z does not work. See, I can't undo when using these, which is a bit of a pain. So I've just popped that one in there, Control Z. No, it won't go back. That's another.
So what's the effect of refresh manually? What's the difference between refresh manually and
No refresh functions. I think that is when you're making changes. It doesn't work as I expect. I would like a pause button. So I say pause all things, make all the changes I want, and then back. Doesn't yet exist.
Yeah, we have.
I can send you a URL and you can write to SAP saying, hey, I'm OPME and this is what I need to do my job, make it happen.
Yeah. Something the pain that you're working and things just keep pausing. We have that in AM that you just pause when you're ready.
Yes, absolutely. That's why I said in the old analysis office toolbar, there was a pause button, and it's only when you took it off that it applied all the data actions. Yeah, no, it doesn't exist. I thought they would do something in here, but it's not yet that yet. So okay, next time I'm on the ideas places, you can submit ideas for improvement, and then people like you come and vote for them, and then if you get so many votes, SAP say, oh, okay, we're going to implement that. Okay, I'll send you the link and you can vote. Right, something along the same lines. So this is what Yvette and you were after, something similar to this. I mean, I'll let you use. So this is all just hard-coded text. This is the AA2 balance sheet level. And this is the full listing. There's obviously 70 odd listings here. And what I've done is I've got some hidden rows and columns where I've made, so I've put in the period across here, and I've put in two key figures. So I've got the inception to date in January, February, March, but then I've just got the actual group currency, no restriction, but I've put in the period 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 13, which is a special period that they make adjustments in. And I've linked it to inception to date or periodic. So if I choose inception to date, it will use this set of key figures on this row. If not, it will use this set of key figures in conjunction with the calendar month. Now, next year I want to update this. I'll just change this to 2024 and away I go. Yeah, great, easy. Because we like to analyze by company, I've got all and then a list of company codes. This is just a filter I made with a a validation list, and I put it in. So now when I change it from ITD to periodic, everything updates, the full one. So now I get the periodic movements by month rather than the inception to date values. So yeah, a variation. Obviously, you can make this much more complex. It's still processing, so it does, as I say, take a little bit of time. So it shouldn't be used for things with huge amounts of data, but if you've got like a sheet, like we have a cash flow statement or a P&L, which is only a few hundred cells. Yeah. So you've got this to reference, and I can then also select a company code as well, and it'll then apply that filter within the formula. So the formula itself is exactly what I said, but rather than within the measures, I put an if statement. So I've said, well, if this is inception to date, then reference this cell, else do this cell. So you could nest if statements, you could nest or VLOOKUP statement or index match or whatever your favorite formula is. Okay. Now, you cannot have, as I mentioned, something with a blank dimension. If you filled in one of these boxes, it's expecting a value, either the dimension name or the dimension value. If it's blank, it returns nothing. So a little bit of trickery, pokery. There's a few dimensions within the data set itself. So when you say, well, it's not that, then make it this. So this is what I've done here. So for example, plan version, okay? So because I don't want to reference this fiscal year period when it's changed to inception to date, because it's already in, I've just said, oh, make it plan version and make the plan version actual, which is just the actual data. It's only got one value. So, it's a little bit of hocus pocus. Now, there are a few dimensions within the model that only ever have one value. Source is one of them. Well, actually, source has multiple, has actual and budget, but we're only interested in actual. Plan version is, also source is UJ for Universal Journal. So you can do some hocus pocus in there, to get it to interact once you know your values. So here's an example that you and the vet can now set up. You can say, well, these are all my key figures. This is how I want it to look. And because it's an Excel formula, I can just come in anywhere I like and insert a load of columns, insert